Reform on the Chinese mainland and the internationalization of the renminbi are very much subjects that we discussed at the Asian Financial Forum 2013. And in joining me is Haji Min from Goldman Sachs. Thanks indeed for joining us today. Wonder if I could start by asking you really about the internationalization of the renminbi, whether you see that now progressing much further than the last 2 years, last 3 years.
I think China's initiative for internationalizing its currency started in around 2009. In the past 3 or 4 years, I think the pace has accelerated. Now more international trades are settled in renminbi, and also investment. Many of the investment activities start to use renminbi as well. An increasing number of countries also began to use renminbi even as a part of their foreign exchange reserves. And more recently, we have seen that a number of steps have been taken to further internationalize the currency. First, the renminbi exchange rate volatility or flexibility has been increased, representing a two-way movement of the currency. And secondly, there are some pilot programs that are being established in either Shanghai or Wenzhou to allow more cross-border capital flows to foster the further internationalization of the currency.
Seeing that happen, though, does that mean that Hong Kong is being somehow marginalized, or do you see Hong Kong as growing in perspective as an international place for the renminbi to develop in its different instruments?
That's a very good question, very interesting question. Given that the renminbi, as of now, is still not a fully convertible currency, I think Hong Kong dollar will still have a very unique role, important unique role to play. And going forward, one day, I hope China's renminbi will be fully internationalized. By that time, I think the two currencies will have a greater substitutability. I think Hong Kong needs that kind of anchor to foster economic stability, including trade and finance. Of course, some commentators also focused on the synchronization of Hong Kong dollar with the US dollar and its implication for the asset prices, for example, inflation. I think no foreign exchange arrangement will be perfect.
You've got the linked exchange rate system, but do you see ultimately the Hong Kong dollar moving from its peg with the US dollar and actually being in a basket of currencies with the renminbi as well?
That's possible. That's in the remote future. If the renminbi is fully internationalized and the Hong Kong government, based on the economic situation then, think about an alternative regime to reflect the Hong Kong economy's synchronization, not only with China, but also with the rest of the world, and decide a new exchange rate arrangement. I think that possibility cannot be excluded.
Well, looking really at the internationalization of the renminbi as you see it today, does that have to be in consort with the reform of the banking industry in China itself? In other words, must the two things go together?
Absolutely, absolutely. The renminbi exchange rate reform, interest rate reform, and banking sector reform, these things should go hand in hand. I think China has started with renminbi exchange rate reform together with the banking reform. This is finally a stage that we're going to see big changes in the direction of financial reforms with all the elements included.
Looking at a sort of wider basis, if you like, of the Chinese economy, it looks a bit better than perhaps other people said that it did in the last couple of years. But would you say that GDP growth in China is going to develop, what, 3%, 4%, 8%? What's your idea?
I think in 2013, GDP growth is more likely to be in the 7.5 to 8.5 range, with the midpoint being 8%. Compared to a below 8% growth in 2012, this represents a somewhat acceleration in economic activity. I think this is underpinned by a number of factors. One is the historical data show that the year after the leadership transition, China's investment tend to accelerate. Yeah. So given that investment accounts for 50% of GDP, we expect that the GDP growth in 2013 will be slightly higher, faster than in a year ago. Another factor is the new government is expected to use urbanization as a driver for next round economic growth. Urbanization, at least in the early stage, will entail a quite massive investment in infrastructure, in low-income housing, in social welfare, etc. So that will also pave the road for investment and economic growth in the foreseeable future.